Hey footy fans, time for a bit more footy fun with FootyFin here. And look, wrap of those two monumental Rugby World Cup semi-finals, the second of which is just finished. And wow, that one was very nervous moments for most of the game for South African fans. And it did live up to its billing as a semi-final, unlike the first one, which happened Friday night French time. So look, let me run over a few highlights and what have you. Please like, subscribe, if you will. I've hit 70 odd subscribers now, which is a bit of a milestone for FootyFin. Anyway, please like and comment. So New Zealand v Argentina, Los Pumas. In the end, it was really, sadly, it was just a glorified training run for New Zealand, for the All Blacks, really. 44-6, they ended up winning. Will Jordan scored a hat-trick. He's now equal all-time try scorer in Rugby World Cups, equaling John Olomu, Brian Habana, and Julian Savea, I think. So let's see if he can break that record in the final. Anyway, look, sadly Argentina were not, they were disappointing, and they just didn't really compete in this. Although, I would say this much, on the cusp of half-time, it was just 15-6 to the All Blacks. They did take quite a bit of time to find their upper gears. I don't think they scored in the first 20 minutes, certainly not a try. 15-6, interesting scoreline, because that was significant in the England-South Africa game too, BTW. But from 15-6, in basically first half injury time, I think it was, the All Blacks scored a try to bring it up to 22-6, and then they basically doubled their score in the second half. Argentina did not score. Now, Aussie coach Michael Cheika, head coach of the Pumas, has copped a bit of flack over some of his selections. And look, I must confess, I don't know the finer details and histories and forms of some of those players involved. But it's interesting just to hear a few echoes around, a few echoes of the Eddie Jones type criticisms, although they do previously play together at Randwick, Cheika and Eddie, but the difference here was Cheika at least had those players on the bench. Anyway, the ref was an Aussie, Angus Gardner. He has come under a little bit of fire, and I don't want to focus on this, but Michael Cheika was one in the post-match press conference who observed the fact that the All Blacks were allowed to get away with quite a few apparent ruck infringements throughout the match. And so, there have been a few murmurs about that. I don't think that would have been the difference. And for me, the other one, a bit of a brain snap from Scott Barrett. So late, or in the final quarter of the game, we've seen Barrett give away red cards and yellow cards quite repeatedly. But normally that might be against, say, the Wallabies or the Springboks in the first half and when the game's yet to be decided. On this occasion, he chose to, do a cynical sort of killing the ball when his side were up 39-6 against Argentina in a Rugby World Cup semi-final. So, go figure. What's doing Scott Barrett? What's with this? He's a bit of a liability to New Zealand, I think, and he's a risk to play. Anyway, there you go. Glorified training run for New Zealand, and they progress to the final. Of course, they missed the final in 2019, so it's their first final in 8 years. Moving on to the game that's just concluded an hour or two ago, South Africa v England. Of course, South Africa came into this as the red-hot favourites, and many were saying, and look, I was sort of this kind of viewpoint, that England were probably just making up the numbers here. It was a favourable draw that saw them into a semi-final rather than, say, seeing Ireland or France into that spot. But credit where credit's due. England came out, they had a game plan. It was sort of a return to the 2019 style. kicks and chases, etc., etc. In the end, so England came very close to causing an almighty upset, and fair play to them. Throughout the match, they scored 4 penalties and 1 field goal, all from the boot of Owen Farrell. Look, what's going to hurt them is that their final points, which was a quite impressive long-range field goal from Owen Farrell, came in the 53rd minute to see them up 15-6, okay, back to that 15-6 score. And the score remained that for another 15 minutes or so. But sadly for England and their fans, they were not able to score after the 53rd minute. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they've only scored 3 points in the entire second half. And clearly in a Rugby World Cup semi-final, that's probably not going to cut it, is it? South Africa made very clever use of their subs. They brought on Andre Pollard quite early in the first half to substitute Marty Lebok. Was that 25 minutes in? Something like that. Eben Etzbeth was replaced as early as the 45th minute. Faf de Klerk came on sometime in there. They changed over their front rows. Snyman came on, and from there things sort of turned, and it was really scrums that won the match for South Africa, I would say, ultimately. So the likes of Ox and Shea and Koch in the front row did fabulously well. Mbanambi, the hooker, I think he played the full game in the end. England only won 3 from their 7 scrums in this match. And there was quite a crucial moment in around 59 minutes. So England up 15-6. The Boks, I think one of their wingers sort of fumbled a tricky bounce of the ball from a kick through. England had a scrum on their own line. So desperation times, and this is where, no, South Africa had that scrum on their own line. England could have really turned the screws and put the nail in the coffin here. From memory, I think South Africa ended up winning a tight head, advanced downfield, and gradually started to turn the screws. And then ultimately, off the back of a line out in the 68th minute, firstly replacement hooker / breakaway Fourie made rather than the Boks going for the rolling maul, which I think many were expecting, Fourie very quickly made a break off the back of the scrum, and there was a bit of a hole in the English defence. He got to within about a metre of the line. Some quick phase play, and Snyman, the giant man with the sort of mohawk type haircut, went over from only a couple of metres out and planted the ball. And of course that was a real psychological blow. So although even that put them in 15-11 with the kick, South Africa still down by 15-13, but that really felt like a big momentum shift and kind of a punch in the guts for England, if you will. And then finally, off another scrum penalty in the 78th minute, Andre Pollard in wet conditions with a relatively heavy ball steps up just over the halfway line and on an angle. I'm of course neutral in this match, but I was concerned he wasn't going to get it, but he nailed it, of course, like the champion that he is. So that puts South Africa in front for the very first time in the match in the 78th minute, 2 minutes left. Basically, ultimately what happened is England had multiple phases, I think just before and after half time. Probably at least 10 to 12 phases, I'm thinking. They didn't really manage to make any ground at all in that time. And ultimately, Billy Vunipola had a knock on. So that sealed the match. So that was quite a heart stopper. So listen, we now know the finalists. It's a replay of the 1995 World Cup Grand Final and all Southern Hemisphere affair, New Zealand versus South Africa. Big rivals. I'm going to do multiple. Now, I do have a team that I want to win this, and it's a different team than the one I wanted to win in 95, but over the course of the week, I'll reveal my thinking there. Anyway, thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe, comment, and look out for my previews. Until next time, catch you at the back of the rolling maul. See you.